As we turn our attention to Survivor Series, it's time to hear from you, the listener, about what you thought regarding Crown Jewel, the season premieres of both Raw and SmackDown, and everything in between. Let's get everything going right after this. Did you know that your state's DMV makes millions of dollars a year selling your information to data mining companies? Wild, I know. In today's age of information, the last thing you need is your home address and phone number readily available on the web. Think stalkers, debt collectors, and Karens. Oh my, no thank you. We have a solution for you. Welcome to Privacy Pros. Privacy Pros works by scrubbing your personal information websites by hand. They're the only American-based opt-out company that does this level of bespoke service. They own their own servers, they never outsource overseas, and they only use open source software to further protect your personally identifiable information. Furthermore, unlike those other guys, they do not resell your data once your subscription ends with them. Every visit to the DMV, the purchase of a new car, or the start of a mortgage can trigger new sales of your information to these predatory data mining companies. Privacy Pros works by pairing you with a data specialist for the duration of your subscription. They monitor over 160 sites, actively removing your information and sending you quarterly reports for an entire year. Ready to scrub the internet of your information? Let the Privacy Pros get their hands dirty so you don't have to. Visit privacypros.com/wrestling for information. Again, that's privacypros.com/wrestling for more information. Privacy Pros, the premier professional opt-out services.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my idol. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast Mailbag. It's your show, not mine. So without any shameless plugs, you guys know where to get the ad-free stuff. Let's just jump into it because we got a lot of content tonight. And first of all, thank you for joining us here. And let's get to... See, I'm not wasting any time. See, told you. We're going right into our Patreon mailbag first because, as you know, if you're a patron of the show, you get priority placement in this show. You don't have to sift through the show and wonder where your email is going to be read. It's right up front here. And we're going to start, you guessed it, with Randy the Patron. So he writes in and he says, "Hey Matt, Randy the Patron." Oh, wait. I misread that. I think my brain disregarded this word, but I'm going to read it because you're a patron. If you weren't a patron of the show, I would not read this. So he says, "Hey Matt, Randy the Bearcat Patron here. Had to do it." Randy, you're on thin ice, man. You were on thin ice. Anyway, so that ladder match was awesome, and I found myself thinking Kevin Owens was going to win it because I thought Big E and Seth were too. But I'm wondering, are they going to make Seth win it just like that or draw it out? I swear to God, I hope they are just letting Liv... Okay, let me get to your first topic. I didn't know you were changing topics. Seth winning it straight away, I don't think so. I think they want to see what Big E's run is really all about. To see how the fans react to him more than just that one night where the crowd went crazy for him. He cashed in. Everyone loved it. I say everybody, but I don't include myself in that statement. And they want to see what's really inside of him to carry that championship and if he's really a contender or a pretender. You know, they want to see what they've got. I don't think it'd be fair for Seth to just take it off of him right on the first get-go. Now, he could be the one to take it from him. I think that actually would be a lot of fun to have Seth as champion on Raw. The heel Seth Rollins, who's doing, I think, career work. That'd be fun. I'm cool with Seth taking... Hell, I'd have him win it the first time he faces Big E, but thinking in WWE terms, no, they probably want to string this out a little bit further, at least through maybe the end of the year. Towards December is where I would look to at the absolute earliest that Big E could lose it. But I could see him going all the way to WrestleMania too. All right, let's get to your second question here. And I swear to God, I hope they are just letting Liv lose to get the crowd behind her because they're wasting her. Yes, she's on TV more, but come on, do more with her. She is talented and gets better each time. Maybe that's exactly the reaction that WWE is hoping for, that they purposefully disrespect her. They purposefully somewhat bury her on TV to see if the crowd is truly behind her, or if it was all just kind of a surface level support for Liv. And if that's the case, then they're doing their job by getting us fans annoyed with how they're treating her. I don't know if that's the test. It could be, or it could just be flat out they don't believe in Liv Morgan like we do. That they have identified her spot on the roster and that she is not going to move from that spot. So take your pick on which one you think it is. Zelina Vega, oh my God, love that. She won, and I think it's perfect for her. But the question is, do you think her and Charlotte will be on the same team and make a go at the tag titles? Just a thought. Yeah, that's a good point. I think that if that was going to be realistic, that you'd have to have Charlotte drop the championship. You don't want Charlotte as a dual tag team and Raw Women's Champion. Or rather SmackDown Women's Champion. You would have to have Charlotte drop the belt. And then in that case, maybe you could. The only other thing is, do you think Charlotte would want to team with somebody that also calls herself the Queen, or would Charlotte be annoyed by that and feel as if she's been calling herself Queen and has proven herself to be Queen for the last 5, 6, 7 years, and Zelina wins one tournament and calls herself the Queen? You know, I don't know. But at the same time, too, does either one really need to turn babyface? The answer is no. So a lot of interworking parts there, Randy. I understand the connection with the Queen, but I for right now, I'd keep them apart for now. All right, Randy. Oh wait, you got more. I don't know how I missed it. I love what they're doing with Austin Theory. I think they're setting him up to be a U.S. champ eventually after Damian is done with T-Bar, unless he ends up winning in what do you think? Well, I think that I agree that they're doing more with Austin Theory than they ever have, and that's not saying a lot, but think about where he was. He was the silent guy in a group that went nowhere with Andrade and Angel Garza and Zelina Vega at the time, too, on Raw during the pandemic era. And I was excited about it, but Austin Theory was a very quick hello and goodbye on that team. And I like that they're actually doing something with him. I think he's an obnoxious D-bag heel, then that's a compliment. And I think that what he's doing with T-Bar, yeah, it's vicious. And I think that what he's doing is fun. I really like it. I mean, when I say vicious, I mean kind of like what he did with Jeff Hardy. But I do believe that they could be grooming him for at least an opportunity at the United States Championship. Yes, I do. I do believe that after Damian is done with him. And Damian also has, I know he beat down T-Bar this week, but he lost to T-Bar, or he won via disqualification. But I do also wonder if they're thinking about toying with Damian turning heel. That's been floated around too. Last, it amazes me how Mandy Rose can go from not doing much in the main roster and then becoming a leader and, spoiler alert, a champ on NXT, along with her other two winning the tag titles. Definitely see Gonzalez coming up soon. That's it for today. Later, stay safe. Yeah, look, Randy, it is amazing. It is amazing of what can happen to talent when they leave the main roster, take the shackles off, and are able to just have a little more freedom and are cast in a different way other than kind of the hot, dumb blonde bimbo stereotype that essentially she was playing on the main roster. It's amazing. I mean, and it really goes for men and women. You saw what happened to Finn Balor going to the main roster back to NXT. It was the best thing ever for him. He comes back to the main roster and loses every match he has. Every big match anyway. Thanks, Randy. It's always appreciated. I look forward to starting off the show next week with you. Okay, let's see here. I got a quick one. This is not a long one, which is actually surprising. The G-Man writes in, and he says, it's the G-Man. I hope you loved my Big E impersonation from last week. It was definitely an honor to be the last caller too. So what will be my punishment? That's all for now. Oh, wait a minute. If I recall correctly, didn't the show end last week with like a mysterious caller that I had no idea of the identity of? Did you just reveal your identity? Well, as your punishment, G-Man, if you are indeed the culprit behind that, your punishment will be to watch Goldberg versus Undertaker on repeat for the next 24 hours. I mean business, right? So, okay. Okay, we're getting to our next email here, and this is from Chris. Chris Beard writes in, and he says, "How's this for an idea? Not sure if it's been floated already, as I don't listen to the mailbag." Well, Chris, you got to listen to the mailbag because I'm answering your question on the mailbag. So you got to start listening, brother. Survivor Series: Roman Reigns and the Usos versus New Day. Usos accidentally double super kick Reigns, leading to his first pinfall defeat. Or maybe he kicks out, but he comes close, so he's pissed. Or maybe they get pinned, so he registers a loss. Either way, he is annoyed at them. He loses his blank and starts beating them down. Rock's music hits and comes in to start defending his family and challenges Roman as the head of the table. Only reason I can see him returning for Survivor Series, if at all. Yeah, I like it, but I also don't want the Usos and Roman Reigns to dissolve yet. Even if it's at the expense or the benefit of getting The Rock back. I don't want to see that. Because The Rock, as great as he is, and he's great, and he's a legend, one of the greatest of all time, he's a flash in the pan now. He's the guy that comes in to help elevate the existing talent. Maybe win a match, but ultimately do the favors for the people that are going to be there. So I would not want one of the best groups, one of the best storylines in years to be dissolved for a flash in the pan, here very temporarily Rock. But I like your thinking, though. That got me a little excited the way that you booked it, and I could imagine it. So kudos to that. Okay, let's see. A few more from Patreon members here. And next up is Amanda. I did not forget you this week. See? So that makes things all better, right? We're cool? Okay. Yeah, so Amanda writes in, and she says, "Hey, Matt and the WWE podcast family. Did I miss something, or is Damian Priest turning heel? Between the new Angel/Devil Titantron video, new music, then he suddenly, quote-unquote, snaps during a match. Can someone please send Dominic Mysterio?" Oh, okay. So I just actually alluded to that, just kind of teasing that they could be turning him heel. I'm cool with it. I actually believe that Damian Priest is a much more natural heel than a babyface. I mean, look what he did during WrestleMania with Bad Bunny. He was an arrogant, self-entitled, just had an aura of narcissism floating around him. And I think he's much, much better suited as a heel. So I hope it is, Amanda. I truly do. It is something, though. This is something, and I don't know if they know which direction they're going. Maybe they just had an idea. Excuse me. Maybe they just had an idea to do this, and they were going to see how the crowd reacted to it, and then take the directive from the crowd to which way they want to go. That's possibly what they're doing. Either way, there's something in the works. Can someone please send Dominic Mysterio to NXT ASAP? He needs more ring work, a new character, and time away from his dad. Yes. Yeah, he does. I mean, it's like I think it might have been Corey Graves. Somebody brought up this analogy, so I'm not the smartest guy in the room who just suddenly came up with it, but it's a perfect one. Is that Rey Mysterio is like the little league dad that's overzealous at the games, and the one that's obnoxious, and you want someone to just knock him out. And his son is the one who's being cheered on, and the one that they're trying to make the star, but he never quite really fits in, and he needs more work. And that's exactly right. I mean, NXT is a good place for Dominic. I think it would be a nice place. Or just honestly, if they're not going to do NXT, just more time at the Performance Center or Capitol Wrestling Center. More time there. They have a state-of-the-art everything. Promo rooms, 6 or 10 rings in there. Absolutely. And honestly, I don't think his in-ring work is perfect, but his in-ring work is like 8 pegs ahead of where his promo ability is and his character development, which is all we all know is where he stumbles. So, yes, NXT's fine, or the Performance Center on his days off. One of the two. I have to throw in my 2 cents regarding Charlotte versus Sasha Banks, the promo last week on SmackDown. If you really catch the way Sasha called Charlotte a B, she definitely put more attitude in saying it. In my opinion, I think Sasha truly meant calling her a B after what she did to Becky. I think she might have went off script. Well, yeah, look, and that's actually something that I wish that I had done a news brief for, but hint, hint, we may have a new news brief person coming along that you know well. I'll just put that out there. But that said, it could be, or it could have been scripted. However, she still felt it as real. As in other words, the script meant it for one thing, and Sasha Banks, when she said it, it was coming from a place of real feelings towards Charlotte. So they kind of got the best of both worlds by both meanings coming out, where Sasha was coming from a real place, but it was meant for the storyline. I doubt she went off script. The reason I doubt it is because, number one, WWE is super micromanaged. And for her to go off script, I don't think she'd be using a curse word to go off script. I mean, I know it's PG, but I'm sure they only have a limited number of times that they can say these words, which suddenly, by the way, the B word was, and the BS word were somehow lumped into PG ratings. I don't know when that happened, but it has sometime over the last year that those words are suddenly now PG. I guess things are becoming a little more liberal in the PG title, but short of it is, Amanda, I don't think she went off script, but yes, I hear what you're saying. Her gut feeling behind it, our instincts as humans, you could tell there was some real to that. There was a real feeling of that, and it could be. If you guys haven't heard about the Charlotte Becky incident and how Charlotte is isolating herself from everybody and how friends don't even recognize her, and she's just just causing issues backstage and that kind of thing. Again, we haven't heard every side of every story. There are usually 2 sides, but right now the side we're getting is that Charlotte seems to be the one who is perpetrating a lot of the issues backstage with some of the women. So go Google it if you want more detail. It's kind of a fascinating read right now of what's going on. Okay. Finally, just some random fantasy bookings I thought of. Liv Morgan to be the number 30 entry in the Royal Rumble, then go on to WrestleMania 38 for a title shot. Yeah, look, I think the fans would be extremely behind that. Seeing Liv in number 30 gives her an absolute advantage, a believable way to win the match. I would be a little bit hesitant to believe that if the Royal Rumble were tomorrow, because right now it doesn't look like Liv Morgan is relevant nearly at all, outside of worrying about how beautiful how beautiful Corey Graves' fiance is, right? That's pretty much it. And I would be all for that, but we'll really get a hint of that if that's going to be the case as we get closer to the Rumble. But I like it. Paige to return to the Rumble. She's been hinting on Twitter wanting to return. Yeah, I heard about that too, about Paige, and that she could be medically cleared already to be in the ring and that she wants to make a comeback. I've heard about that. I'm sure she was inspired by Edge, by Daniel Bryan and others regarding the neck injury return for both of those guys, and a very successful one at that. So Paige could be the next feel-good story. And I think Paige would be an excellent addition to the women's division. No doubt. I don't want to see her as the Raw general manager. I want to see her in ring, just like Sonya Deville. I don't need actual in-ring competitors that are capable of being in ring, lessening themselves to a managerial role. And yes, it is lessening yourself because the real stars are made in the ring. They're not made in suits and backstage decisions that are extremely easy and obvious to make. Everyone's fighting. Well, we're going to have a fatal 4-way. Yeah, well, no kidding. Like, I mean, the decisions that are made at that level for GM or official or commissioner are some of the most obvious decisions that anyone with half of a brain could easily make. So I don't want somebody dumbing themselves down to that role, but rather show be able to magnify and be able to show everybody all their talents. So anyway, let's continue. Alexa Bliss returns more psycho than ever, uses her mind control over Finn Balor to turn him into the demon permanently, and he runs rampage over the Raw roster. So what if they team up? What if Alexa and Finn team up? I think if she goes more psycho than ever and the mind control thing, they got to be careful with that, because that's part of, not everything, but part of why the fans turned on the Alexa Bliss character. They were about to go full ham on turning on that character this close. And then part of it was the hocus pocus theatrical nonsense that they were doing with that character, and her tripling down on that. It could work. I'm not saying no, but they need to be careful with it. If that's what they're going to do, really think it through, because it could bomb. But when you put it like this, Finn Balor's the demon permanently. There's some good things you could do with that. At the same time, I think it would also diminish what the demon means, because the demon is somebody you only see when it's necessary in the storyline. So, Commander Aziz versus Omos, pronounced Omos. Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up, Amanda, because as promised, I did publish a poll out to my patrons, and I asked, how do you pronounce Omos? And there's only two options. I said Omos, O-H-M-A-S, or Omos, O-H-M-O-S. And with a landslide victory, it was Omos. So it was O-H-M-A-S. That is how we landed. 18 votes to 4. So, I guess the majority has spoken. It's now Omos. So I'm going to say Omos from now on. All right. Let's thank you, Amanda, for that. I appreciate that. But Commander Aziz versus Omos, yeah, they could do that. I think Omos is actually more ready than Commander Aziz is. In terms of he's had much more live in-ring action, and therefore I think he's a little bit more seasoned for whatever that's worth versus Commander Aziz. That could also be a disastrous match. Like it could be very slow, methodical, and clunky. As cool as the visual would be, I'd be waiting until Commander Aziz is a little bit more fleshed out in the ring than he is currently. So, Amanda, you enjoy the rest of your week as well. Thank you so much. We'll be hearing from you very soon, as we spoke earlier. So, let's see here. Hold on. I think we have one more patron, and it is time to get into the DJ booth here with DJ Kuzmo. He writes in and he says he's back at it again on our mailbag show. Crown Jewel has come and gone. October 22nd came and went. The dust has finally settled, and we have updated rosters to both Raw and SmackDown. We did get the infamous title swap on SmackDown between Becky and Charlotte, which I will get on the voicemail recording later on. However, after all that said and done, after retaining the Universal title at Crown Jewel by hook and crook, after Brock Lesnar getting suspended on Friday after the pay-per-view, at the end of the day, there is but one constant in WWE, and that is the reigning, defending, undisputed Universal World Heavyweight Champion, and still the Tribal Chief, the head of the table, and the newly titled Suplexorcist. Oh, yeah, that's right. The surplexorcist. Yeah, I forgot about that. Tough word. Roman Reigns. Yes, Roman Reigns' greatness is your first title here, or your first topic. And here's what you say. Roman Reigns is on a hell of a run as champion, which, if I'm not mistaken, has been pinned on live television in almost 2 years. Sorry, house shows don't count. There are levels to greatness in the pro wrestling business, and Roman Reigns has definitely reached the peak of his powers of being a heel and reclaiming the Universal title since last year at Payback. As much as Drew McIntyre had done an incredible work as babyface during the COVID Thunderdome era last year, Roman Reigns is right up there and even surpasses Drew in doing incredible work in his own right as a heel and figuratively carrying the company. Quick sidebar. Before Roman came back at SummerSlam last year, I would subscribe and unsubscribe to the good old WWE Network app. Another quick sidebar. How awesome was the WWE Network app? Easy to navigate the specific matches or moments that we wanted to rewatch. And you could watch a live pay-per-view event with ease without awful lagging and glitches that we got with this Peacock app. Anyway, to climb out of this rabbit hole, I would subscribe to watch the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania Night 1 and 2, and then the infamous WWE Backlash that showcased Edge versus Randy Orton. That was the, wasn't that the greatest wrestling match ever? Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. And Drew versus Bobby for the WWE title. After those pay-per-views, I unsubscribed from the network because I didn't want to watch the awful Money in the Bank and the cinematic hokey Extreme Rules pay-per-view. I subscribed back to the network for the SummerSlam pay-per-view, and from that night when Roman turned heel, I have not unsubscribed even now on the awful Peacock app because of one guy, Roman Reigns. Ever since he came back, every pay-per-view match that Roman was involved with was top-notch good stuff. So I was hooked and intrigued to see what Roman will do at the next pay-per-view and the next pay-per-view, etc. With that being said, we can only assume that Roman will have another year as heel champion and will eventually someday lose the title because nothing lasts forever. So before that day comes and he's no longer champion, let's take a trip down memory lane to the laundry list of competitors that Roman has smashed, stacked, and pinned from last year up to this point, all in specific order. Ooh, DJ, good stuff. I'm glad you did this because I was starting to lose track of everybody he had beaten. But before we get to that list, I just want to comment on it. That's really telling, and I don't think you're alone in that. You are subscribed for one guy. That speaks so many volumes. That's what you call a needle mover. That's not a star. That's not a superstar. That's a needle-moving megastar. That's what Roman Reigns is now. He's no longer just Roman Reigns, the guy. He is megastar needle mover Reigns. That's a terrible nickname, but you guys get the context. And that's the kind of star power that brings in money. How do I know? DJ, you're an example. You're not throwing your money away, that's for sure. And it's amazing that even the awfulness of Peacock has not pushed you away back to your unsubscribing days. That says a lot, because I got to say Peacock at times is just the absolute worst. No doubt. I miss the network. Okay, let's go in order of the guys that he has faced since coming back as a heel in August of last year. First, Braun Strowman at SummerSlam, which he actually came back and he just beat him in that match. The Fiend at Payback. Jey Uso at Clash of Champions in Hell in a Cell. Drew McIntyre at Survivor Series. That's really sad that's on that list. Kevin Owens at TLC and the Royal Rumble. Daniel Bryan via Elimination Chamber, Fastlane, and WrestleMania. Edge at WrestleMania and Money in the Bank. Cesaro at Backlash. Oh, sorry, WrestleMania Backlash. Yes, come on, DJ. No need to mock. That's a way better name than Backlash. If you could see my face. Rey Mysterio, Hell in a Cell title match on SmackDown. John Cena, SummerSlam. Brock Lesnar, Crown Jewel. Before I give away my favorite feud that Roman had, I want to ask you, and maybe the listeners, what is your favorite feud since Roman returned as a heel? Ooh. Well, okay. I would have to say the favorite that that I've seen with Roman so far, it's probably Edge. And the reason is because Edge is also just awesome. And he does such a great job. And I know that it was a triple threat match between him and Bryan and Roman. But I think Edge was the most convincing out of everyone to beat Brock Lesnar or to beat Roman Reigns. Yeah, John Cena had a somewhat of a chance, but with John Cena and stars like Cena and Lesnar, they're not there for a long time. They're there for a good time, which means why waste the belt changing hands for guys that are not going to be around very much? So I thought Edge, while he is a part-timer, is a little bit more frequent there than is John Cena or Brock. So I thought Edge was the most convincing, and his promos are always excellent, so I enjoyed Edge. Let's see what you did here. Okay, my favorite feud I enjoyed outside of the Brock and Roman match was Roman versus Jay. I enjoyed this feud with Roman and Jay because of the storyline, which basically ran on the fact that they were cousins, and the feud felt more personal than a typical title match. You kind of forget that their feud was for the title. It was all about the bloodline. Before they were called the bloodline. The internal power struggle as to who would be the head of the table. The Samoan wrestling legacy from the legendary team of Sika and Afa, The Rock, Rikishi, Umaga, and many, many more names from this legendary family tree. When you have a storyline that is birthed from the aspect of realism and not just solely based on kayfabe, then you have a compelling feud with both casual and hardcore fans getting emotionally invested. I rewatched the Clash of Champions match and the Hell in a Cell I Quit match recently from last year. They were both really good matches in terms of storytelling. They didn't have high spots or crazy athletic finishes to make those two matches incredible. It just told a story by the pacing of the match and Jay and Roman trash-talking each other. For example, one of the sequences that I love in the Hell in a Cell match was when Roman threw the referee over the ropes, and then the officials came to try to bring the match to an end. And then Roman closed the door of the cell and said something like, "Nobody's leaving this ring." And then he continues to mercilessly beat down Jay with the strap. Also in both matches, Jimmy comes to intervene on behalf of his brother Jay to prevent Roman from severely hurting Jay. Man, oh man, one more thing I forgot to mention in the Hell in a Cell, that Hell in a Cell match. Jimmy is telling Roman to stop, and then all of a sudden Roman starts crying, looks up, and begins to question himself as to who he is. Then Jimmy stretches his hand to Roman and offers a proverbial olive branch to make peace and end the match. But as he does that, Roman puts Jimmy in a headlock and forces Jay to utter the words "I quit," and the match ends. Sorry for the long deep dive into this feud between Roman and Jay, but I just wanted to show that by having a really good storyline that has some truth to it, it can lead to a compelling feud that everyone would want to be emotionally invested in the underdog babyface uphill battle to win. Okay, so before we switch topics, yeah, look, that's a nice deep dive into that because it brings to light the importance of emotional investment. You mentioned it many times. That's exactly right. Emotional investment is key in everything. Everything. And WWE, a lot of times, just masks it with athleticism and title matches that they have a dime a dozen on free TV now. When that's not the problem. The problem is compelling stories that get you emotionally invested. And you're exactly right. You're making a good case. I really enjoyed that as well. And Roman crying, and it was brilliant. It really was. It was just so well done. I agree. I really hope Creative does something with this Becky and Charlotte confrontation because it seems to me, and everyone that watched the title exchange last Friday, that there is something that Creative can build up on from their awkward title exchange. There is some truth here that can be used for this feud since they can't stand each other in real life or whatever the case may be. Yeah, so I would caution everybody, though, that perhaps this story was purposely floated. What better way to add some juice to this story than to make it look like it's actually real? Today, everything is so transparent and kayfabe's all but dead that you don't hear about this too much. Actually, to the contrary, you see the opposite more often, where two competitors beat the hell out of each other in the ring, and then on Instagram they're posting selfies, doing, like their best friends out on a dinner date. I mean, it's really maddening. And in this case, you're getting the opposite. So you're wondering, wait a minute, is there something real here? So am I saying that it's not real and that this is purposely floated? No, I'm not saying that, but it's a consideration. Which, if it's if that is the case and they actually did this on purpose and this is not real, it's just a story that is pretending to be real, I'm cool with that because it brings the element of emotional investment back in because it makes it real that they actually may not like each other. So whether that's purposefully created or manufactured or it's actually real, both to me are fine because either way it creates doubt in your mind, doesn't it? Amazing. Just a little sliver of truth that's injected into this can be a lot more fun. It's amazing. So, okay, just to close on Roman Reigns, acknowledge this guy, enjoy the ride because he's got another title, a great title reign to close off this year going into next year's WrestleMania. Edge and what's next for him. Edge getting the win at Hell in a Cell against Seth was okay with me. I didn't have a problem with that. Firstly, Saudi Arabia loves their legends. Second, Edge most likely will be off TV for a long while, so why not give him the win? Seth is not going to be buried. He's going to brush off this loss and get back in the main scene for a major title. And from the looks of it on Monday Night Raw, he's now the number one contender to face Big E. That's most likely to be aired on free TV because we have a brand versus brand pay-per-view next month called Survivor Series. On the flip side, what is next for Edge? Who would you like to see him feud with upon his eventual return? And my final question on this subject is, at this point of his career, does Edge care about having a title run or does he just care about putting young established talent over? Because since his loss to Roman at Money in the Bank, and then sidetrack with Seth, I'm actually okay with Edge not winning another title because being out of action pretty much an entire decade, all he wants to do now is wrestle. It's in his blood. He's passionate about it. And he has a long list of guys that we want him to face before he finally retires. Hopefully in 2022, we get a heel Edge because it's time to unleash the rated R or at least modified version of his heel character. Boy, okay. Who do I want Edge to face next? Well, buddy, let's take a look at the roster. We cannot be Seth Rollins. That's for darn sure. Seth is out. Randy Orton's out. They're on the same brand now, though, but he's out. You have Riddle, I guess, if he turns heel, but that's not a right now thing. Looking at this, I'd actually have to say Bobby Lashley. That's who I think is actually going to challenge him next. Because Bobby Lashley is also kind of MIA, taking some time off. He said he'd be back this week. And maybe him and Edge somehow cross paths. Because looking at this roster right now, I don't see how anybody else on this roster would be a good fit for Edge. Although AJ Styles, if he's not in a tag team, would be fun. Edge and AJ Styles. That I can sink my teeth into. How about that? That's who I want, is AJ Styles. Get him out of the damn tag team and let him deal with Omos and see how that goes. But yes, I agree. We need heel Edge before he calls it a career. And I actually do want to see him on even a short-term title run, just to give him one last nice, cool, nostalgic run and then call it a career. So that's the two things I want out of Edge, as if my needs are put above his and everyone else's because they are. That's selfishly what I want. Thanks, Matt and Anthony. I enjoyed the what if on Goldberg if he never left in 2004. Interesting to me that he would have had feuds with Taker at WrestleMania 21 in 2005, and probably JBL might have been drafted to Raw. And then Goldberg, Batista, and The Undertaker would have had some intertwining feuds, either one-on-one or triple threat for the World Heavyweight title in the latter part of 2005-2006. Yeah, you're right. With the stench of WrestleMania 20, the match against Brock Lesnar that's still in the minds of fans, it would have been easy to turn Goldberg heel because of the way that infamous match ended. With that being said, 2003 and 2004 would be my favorite era of seeing Goldberg, and the era that I would enjoy the most, and not the typical pop in and pop out iteration of Goldberg we get now. That's all for me in this email edition, or email portion of In the DJ Booth with DJ Kuzmo signing off. Peace. So, yes, DJ, I know that you have a voicemail. We are going to get to that. You have several topics you want to talk about, so we'll get to that in the second half of the show. And now we get to go to the other emails that are non-patrons, and let's start with Terry. Terry from Tennessee writes in and says, I just want to say, I think this might be the end of the new day. Oh boy, Terry, I already love the way this email starts. So you get email of the day. I got a feeling King Woods will become so full of himself and become the next best king since King Booker, and that will create a rift between him and Kofi, leading to a pretty good feud between them. In my humble opinion, I really think Woods can be a great heel, and with his mic skills and attitude, you'll finally get your wish of the New Day dissolving, and we get a reunion of the three in a few years. Yes, I'm fine with them having a nice little feel-good rainbow popcorn and Booty-O's reunion when it's necessary. But the problem is it's been so consistent for 7 years, it's stomach churning. And I that's what I've said, and I continue to say, is I am 100% cool with Xavier becoming king if it's ultimately leading to a New Day dissolution. Period. End of subject. And I hope that I'm glad you're on board, Terry. I really am, because I need somebody on my side here. I need some bodies in my corner. It doesn't seem like many people are, outside of some of the co-hosts on this show, that I need people, I need listeners, I need fans in my corner, because unfortunately the fans are really the biggest problem here. They're the ones who have been preventing this from happening because they continue to cheer for New Day. Like sheep. Stop it. Okay. Now that I've insulted millions of fans, have hate mail coming. Thanks, Terry. Okay. Let's see. This is actually from Instagram. How about that? Instagram. I got an Instagram message, and I'm cool with getting those, and I'll put them on the mailbag here. So this is from Niladri, and he writes in and says, with Roman's heel persona and the on-screen attitude that he developed, it's extremely visible in this fighting style, especially against an opponent like Lesnar. If this was a few years ago, Roman would have taken around a dozen suplexes, a couple of F5s, and would have been done for. But now he's aggressive. Also, I really enjoyed the opening match between Seth and Edge. Simply awesome. But one tiny thing is killing me, that after how Hurt Business was broken and why and how one day they suddenly get back together as friends. Yeah, listen, I don't know. I've been preaching about that for weeks now. Hoping you take this on the mailbag episode. Big fan of your podcast from India. Cheers. Well, thank you so much for listening all the way from India. I really apologize if I butchered your name. I am like the last person that you would want to phonetically correctly pronounce someone's name. I mean, trust me on that. I would not be a good White House press secretary. Let me just say that too. It would not work out well for me. I would not last long. But that said, I hope I pronounced your name. And again, I think it's Naladri or Naladri. It's something close to that, I hope. So my apologies if it's not correct. But yes, you're right about this fighting style. It's different. These matches between Brock and Roman are different. They feel different. They're structured different. Yes, we go with the German suplexes, but it's not as if he's taking, like you said, a dozen of them. It's changed. Roman has improved. He's Roman 2.0. Really Roman 3.0. When you go back from the Shield to the babyface Roman, now to the heel Roman, it's really Roman 3.0. If we're looking at this in terms of like software updates or something. But yeah, good observation. And the Hurt Business, brother, I have been harping on that they just don't feel the need to even explain it once. Even a lazy, improbable excuse they can't give us. Thanks for the question. And continue to send them via Instagram. You can do that, by the way, if you want to send them on Instagram. It's WWE_podcast, if you are interested, or on Twitter at wrestling_audio. All right, let's take a break from the emails here. We do have a few more emails, and then we're going to jump into voicemails. But I'm going to take a pause to pay some bills, and then we'll be back on the other side. So stay right here. Did you know that your state's DMV makes millions of dollars a year selling your information to data mining companies? Wild, I know. In today's age of information, the last thing you need is your home address and phone number readily available on the web. Think stalkers, debt collectors, and Karens. Oh my, no thank you. We have a solution for you. Welcome to Privacy Pros. Privacy Pros works by scrubbing your personal information websites by hand. They're the only American-based opt-out company that does this level of bespoke service. They own their own servers, they never outsource overseas, and they only use open source software to further protect your personally identifiable information. Furthermore, unlike those other guys, they do not resell your data once your subscription ends with them. Every visit to the DMV, the purchase of a new car, or the start of a mortgage can trigger new sales of your information to these predatory data mining companies. Privacy Pros works by pairing you with a data specialist for the duration of your subscription. They monitor over 160 sites, actively removing your information and sending you quarterly reports for an entire year. Ready to scrub the internet of your information? Let the Privacy Pros get their hands dirty so you don't have to. Visit privacypros.com/wrestling for information. Again, that's privacypros.com/wrestling for more information. Privacy Pros, the premier professional opt-out services.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
Alrighty, let's jump into just a few more emails rather. And then I promise we will get to those fun voicemails and you get to stop hearing me ramble and have story time with you guys and you get to hear other voices. So let's get to Owen. Oh boy, here we go. Y'all know about Owen, or if you don't, you're about to. Okay. Owen writes in and says, awesome. I came to play. There's a price to pay. Time for you to get down on your knees and pray. I came to pay. It's your favorite part of the mailbag. It's time for your Resident Heel Roundup. Oh, get ready, folks. Put your seatbelt on. So, Crown Jewel was actually pretty good. I'm sure the people before me all spoke about what they enjoyed, and I'm sure I agree with many of them. So instead, I'll be unique and tell you all the moments that made me laugh during the pay-per-view. Number 1, Goldberg's insecurity. Why did WWE choose the skinniest guy? Thank you, Owen. Oh, my brother. I know you're the heel here. The second I read this sentence just now, and I do not pre-read these, which is also kind of a little bit irresponsible on my part, but thank you for bringing this up. I thought about it the same thing. That's hilarious. So thank you. Okay. Let me finish and stop being obnoxious. Why did WWE choose the skinniest guys in the lineup and supposed to be looking menacing for the security escort for Goldberg? I'm pretty sure I could have won a fight against most of them, and it made me laugh how they really want us to believe that these are men Goldberg chose to look menacing in story. Yeah, look, that's actually really a funny observation that I thought about, and I'm like, oh, I got to bring that up, and I just forgot to bring it up on my show. So great storyline there, and great topic. If anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, just go watch the Goldberg entrance. It looks like he hired the local chess club. I mean, seriously, like the bowling team. That may be even giving them too much credit. It was so funny. I mean, this jacked up dude that could probably handle 20 guys in real life at once. You have being surrounded. I mean, they're surrounded by like the strength of children. I mean, there was zero security around him. It was so funny. Thank you, Owen, for that. Number 2, please tell me I wasn't the only person who realized during Seth versus Edge, the camera flipped to a kid looking shocked, stood right next to someone in a CM Punk AEW shirt, and they changed camera angle so fast it had me laughing. I didn't see that. And I want to search for it. Maybe somebody else picked that up. Anyway, like I said, it was a pretty good pay-per-view. Once again, I showed off my knowledge and wisdom that all the other listeners lack when I predicted on my email that pretty much the exact way the main event would go. Yes, I am phenomenal. I listened to your show with Memphis Mark, and I will admit he's an interesting character. I would love to see him come on more for a few more times, maybe doing a show with a younger co-host like Old School versus New School. I know you guys did that for 1 week, then it disappeared like Elias. Well, I want to see it back for sure. Well, yeah. If you didn't know, that show actually Elias took, and he's in the woods somewhere, sitting by a fire, burning everything. So once Elias returns, that show will return. My first thoughts on Hit Row. This was my first time really seeing them because I have a life and I'm done watching NXT. I love it. It's so funny because you're trying to be heel and trying to get people to be annoyed by you, but it's also a lot of truth. I feel like you're telling the truth. That's what makes it even better. I'm going to make a prediction right now. I think his name was Swerve or something. He had gold teeth and was wrestling. Man, I like the look of him. He's going to be a future big time heel. He has the perfect look, with the hair and the gold teeth of a heel. It's so unique. I don't know what that guy was doing with the toothbrush. Honestly, it looks stupid. Yeah, look, I really don't know much about Hit Row either. And that is also because I don't watch NXT, because I don't have a life right now. So I don't have any part of my life to dedicate to watch NXT. But that said, yeah, look, Hit Row, I don't know if they're supposed to be heel or babyface. I wasn't impressed with their week 1 debut because it was the most choreographed introduction I've ever seen in my life, as Memphis Mark and I went over. But yeah, so we'll see though. I'm going to give them time. Okay, let's continue. I will end with something that is repetitively mentioned by you, Matt, and others on this podcast that I completely disagree with. Ooh, this is going to get good. This is going to get good. Let's go. That's the big ending, or as you call it, the big belly flop. You may say, how is the other person being hurt? Let's think about some other finishers that are how they're supposed to be hurt. The AA, Cena literally throws the person on their back from like 1.5 meters. I assume you're not from the United States if you're using the metric system. How is that worse than face planting in this from the same distance? The big ending is a drop, an RKO instead of a typical RKO. You're saying the big ending is a drop on an RKO instead of the typical RKO. I think it's a good, believable move. If you want to moan about finishers, look at Rick Boog's slam, which takes about a year to set up for it to be a simple power slam. Big E's finish is unique, and it can be set up easily, something that other finishers can't do. Big E's character is pretty terrible. His finisher is not. I know you're not as on the same level as me, Matt, but come on, do better. The move isn't bad. Okay, Owen, listen, the big ending, I'm doubling down on this. It's god-awful. Now, you may say, the RKO is the same thing. But the RKO, in terms of presentation, in terms of illusion, which is what all finishers are, they're an illusion. The illusion of the RKO being more devastating is infinitely higher. Because the RKO, number one, Randy Orton delivers it perfectly, and it looks like you're attacking the head of the individual, slamming their face into the mat. The big ending is exactly what I said. It's a belly flop. It is not a face-planting move. Now, if it's a face-planting move, it's simply because the person taking the move is trying to make it look more devastating by curving their head towards the mat, because they know if they land on their stomach, it looks terrible. And it is terrible. The big ending is god-awful. You can't tell me that somebody dropping from the height of Big E, which Big E's what, like 6 feet at most? I'd have to look. He's not exactly a tall guy. And all he does is just drop. He doesn't use any of his power. He just drops with them. You would think a guy like that would do something else with the big ending to utilize his strength. He doesn't. This is a finishing maneuver that anyone could do. And anyone the size of Big E should be doing something bigger, better, more hallucinogenic, more illusion-based, which is all what this is. The RKO, to compare it to the RKO, is laughable, buddy. The RKO is one of the best-looking finishers of all time. John Cena, yeah, it's essentially a fireman's carry, a standing fireman's carry, but at least he's using his strength to lift the opponent as high as he can and slam them down as hard as he can onto the mat. In Big E's case, all he does is fall. Big E just falls to the mat. That's it. That's also what makes it really bad. And it's just, I don't know. I'm going to double, triple down on this. I mean, I'm not going to convince you. You're not going to convince me. But that's what's great. All right. So moving on. I'm counting down the days until I get to formally speak to Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. Will I praise him? Will I turn on him? Will it start a friendship for years to come? Or will it start a rivalry that is spoke about for years? You'll have to tune in next week. You see, Matt, I even do advertising for you. Wow. Something's up, though. Heels don't do anything for free that doesn't invest something into them, right? Like there's something in it for them. So I'm very curious and very, very cautious, I should say, about your free advertising for me there, Owen. I got to be kind of sleeping with one eye open, if you know what I mean. I know this has been a long one. I usually keep them short. I'm sorry if I went over the 3-minute mark, but I'm sure last week's In the DJ Booth went on for so long I had to go home to shave the beard I had grown while listening to it. Honestly, I was like looking like Mick Foley by the time it was done. Goodbye for now, your resident heel Owen. Yikes, DJ. Did you hear that? Owen just called you out for your long emails. Dang. Yeah, Owen and everybody, Mr. and Mrs., not just the Mr. We get the double feature. Mr. and Mrs. Casual Wrestling Fan return 1 week from tonight with the takeover show for the mailbag. Send in your questions. He's not doing the voicemails. He's doing email only. I will be doing the voicemails. So just if you're interested, he will read them all and respond to everything. It's going to be a great show, no doubt, especially with the misses there. All right. Let's see. Not too many more emails, guys. There really isn't. I think there's only 2. So we have Dennis McGinley. I believe you're new. Let's read on. I believe you are. So welcome, Dennis. He writes in, "Hey there, WWE Universe." Okay, well, yeah, that's how you know you're new. We don't use that term here, Dennis. We don't use that term here. I'm just kidding. But let's continue. I enjoy listening to you, Matt, and everyone on the team, and new team members as well. A big shout out to the Casual Wrestling Fan, he and she, and all the help that gets me the updates. I am sorry to say, due to doctor's restrictions, I have limited screen time, so I listen to your WWE podcast as a way to know what went down for Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown and other podcasts you do to highlight the week in wrestling. I can catch the pay-per-views on Peacock. When you talk about someone turning babyface or heel, what exactly are you talking about? Hope you hear your guys' feedback, email, or I listen on the mailbag. Yes. So Dennis, so it sounds like you're a little bit new to wrestling, or at least the inside terms of wrestling. That's cool. And I'm glad that you use us to stay up to date with wrestling. That's really cool. I do appreciate that. And, continue to listen. I know you got a lot of options out there, and, I'm glad we can be part of your day to continue to be connected with the wrestling universe. So babyface and heel, very simple. Babyface is somebody that is the good guy. Heel is the bad guy. I hate to be so simplistic and elementary about it, but that's what it is. Someone that's turning babyface is turning good. Fan favorite, right, is another synonym for that. Heel, bad guy, the antagonist, if you will. Pretty basic, but there you go. If you have any other questions, please feel free to send them, Dennis. Great to see a new name. All right, let's continue. And okay, well, it's time for the Casual Wrestling Fan via email. We don't get graced with his presence until next week, but he writes in and says, it's Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan. I want to start off by saying I love the 24/7 championship. I guess that's in complete contrast to myself and Memphis Mark, who did the Week in Review this week, which, by the way, if you have not listened to the Week in Review, you're missing out. An old school fan, came from watching the 60s and 70s wrestling to now. He still watches it today. You got to go listen to Memphis Mark and myself. It was just an excellent conversation. But Big E still doesn't feel like the WWE champion to me. He wears the championship, but it doesn't feel like a legitimate champion. When Bobby was champion, he was dominant. He felt legit. Same for Drew. Even The Miz won the championship in a way that was believable. But Big E isn't impressing me at all. And now Seth is the next star that will have to lay down for Big E. If the WWE gods are listening, please give Big E the big ending as champ and put the belt on Seth effing Rollins. Could you imagine the run that Seth would have? It would be great. Oh yeah, listen, Mr. Casual Wrestling Fan, I briefly talked about this towards the beginning of the show. Seth as champion is going to be, and it's going to happen. It would be infinitely more entertaining than Big E. Big E I'm sorry, he's extremely vanilla right now as champion. I'm going to take his character aside. I'm going to take his all his shortcomings that I consistently rant about aside. If I didn't know anything about the guy and I just looked at him, I'd be like, he's a guy with big muscles. He seems like he's entertaining, but he's boring. He's boring. There's just no other way to put it. He is. And sorry, hip swivels and gyrations don't do it for me. I love the 24/7 championship. That's your next line. Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. All right. On one of your shows, you asked why Becky calls Bianca Esther. It's to make fun of her EST gimmick. Becky still sucks, by the way. Yeah, I was educated on Esther. I really thought that was her name, but it is just a make fun of her EST gimmick. Thank you for the double clarification. Becky still sucks. That's, oh, brother. I can't wait to see what your whole takeover show is about. I love the 24/7 championship. Did you hear about the rumored incident between Becky and Charlotte after the championship exchange? I totally agree with Charlotte. What side are you on? Listen, I'm going to have to dig into more about this, and I'm going to, because I briefly saw the headlines. I saw the summation of what happened, and I don't want to formulate a detailed opinion and pick a side, so to speak, until I see all sides here. And I hate to cop out on it, but I simply haven't read everything I need to read to come to that conclusion. But okay, you're on Charlotte's side. Okay. Like, I don't know what to say to that yet because I haven't read everything. But it's certainly a hot topic right now. One that I talked about and saying just a few minutes ago, what if it's purposely manufactured to create more interest? Because anything real creates more interest, period. Also, if you haven't heard the Mailbag show, it's takeover next week. Yep. I've been plugging it many times throughout this show. Lastly, I love the 24/7 championship. Is your goal for me to repeat this line so many times that I start to believe it myself? Isn't that some kind of reverse psychology where even if it's a line I don't believe in, if I say it enough, that somehow my brain will make me believe what I'm saying? Is that what you're pulling? Is there some kind of trickery going on here? Oh boy, I think that's what it is. All right, Mr. Casual Wrestling fan, myself and everyone we are certainly looking forward to next week with you and the missus. All right, guys, it is now time. It is now time to get to the voicemails, and we're going to start off with any of our patrons who send in voicemails, and right now, that is Mr. DJ Kuzmo, so let's see what he has to say this week.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is none other than DJ Kuzmo, back at it again on your Mailbag show. I'm recording to you live once again on a windy, rainy Tuesday evening out here in New York City. But I am going to still record this for the Mailbag because it ain't a Mailbag show without me, and I just love this show. And first and foremost, I want to give a quick shout out to none other than Memphis Mark. Memphis Mark, shout out to you, my friend. I heard you on the Weekend Review show with Matt, and just to hear your perspective on pro wrestling. And man, just to hear how you analyze things, how you analyze, specific feuds and characters, and bridging the old school with the new school. Great to hear your perspective on pro wrestling. And man, oh man, it'll be great to hear from you soon once again. So all the best to you, Memphis Mart. I want to talk about, of course, the Crown Jewel pay-per-view that was last week Thursday. I enjoyed this pay-per-view. It exceeded my expectations. It was one of those type of pay-per-views that you had to keep watching. You had to pay attention because it was one of those types of pay-per-views that I enjoyed. I'm going to give it an A+ pay-per-view. Shout out to everybody that competed because I know that the flight from the States to Saudi Arabia is very grueling, and to come back is very grueling. And to see all of the men and women compete was tremendous. So I want to give a shout out to everybody that participated in all of these matches. It wasn't easy getting here, and it wasn't easy getting back, but shout out to all of you guys. Great job by SmackDown and Raw. But I want to also talk about what happened on the Friday night after. We all expected to see Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar came back and not only attacked the Usos, not only attacked Roman Reigns, he did not attack Paul Heyman, but he attacked Adam Pearce. Oh my goodness. And just to hear Adam Pearce challenge Brock Lesnar by saying that he's suspended, are you kidding me? How can you suspend the Beast? How can you suspend Brock Lesnar? Come on, man. But it was crazy. Crazy to see what happened to Adam Pearce getting F5 not once, but twice. And then his pants. I don't know if you guys saw that his pants got a little split here and there. I think we probably saw a little bit of his underwear. I don't know what was that all about, but that was hilarious. That was hilarious to see that with Adam Pearce. He got what he deserves, not just one F5, but a second F5. But now that Brock Lesnar is no longer here, I know we have Survivor Series. I know we probably have Big E versus Roman Reigns, but I am interested to see what's next for Roman Reigns coming for December, and of course for the Royal Rumble season, now that Brock Lesnar is no longer in the picture. So I want to see what's going to happen next. I know we're going to have probably Big E versus Roman Reigns at Survivor Series, but Roman Reigns once again is still our Universal Champion, still our Tribal Chief, and the head of the table. So it's interesting to see where this whole dynamic with Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns and Paul Heyman and the Usos, does Paul Heyman still stay in Roman Reigns' good graces? We will see on the next episode of SmackDown. But now, I want to talk about one of the biggest things that's happening right now in the WWE, and that's none other than Charlotte Flair. I don't know what's going on with Charlotte Flair. We was hearing some stuff that was going on backstage, how she was having some confrontation with Becky Lynch. I think she also went rogue on Vince McMahon, and the whole scenario being played out, with the whole title exchange, very awkward when they had that title exchange on Friday night with Sonya Deville in the middle of it. Sonya Deville did a great job to kind of be the referee in between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. But this is to you, WWE creative. This is an opportunity. This is an opportunity, whether this is a work, whether this is a shoot, this is an opportunity for creative to build up this storyline between Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair for Survivor Series, because of course we have none other than our Raw versus SmackDown. We have our champion versus champion, and we want to see what's going to happen next between these two, because there is some sort of feud going on that we don't know about. And like I said, whether it's a work, whether it's a shoot, something has to come about between these two, and hopefully they settle the score at Survivor Series. But that's all I got to say right now as I get out of this rain. I hope you all have a blessed week, and I will talk to you all next time.
DJ, thank you so much for calling in, and yeah, get yourself dry, buddy. Go in and maybe have a little hot chocolate. It's getting to that time of year, right? We're thinking about that kind of stuff, and sit by the fire and wrap yourself in a blanket and watch some HGTV or some what's a Hallmark channel. Of course, I'm getting very feminine here, but you get my drift, right? So, okay. I'm glad you enjoyed the pay-per-view so much. Giving it an A+. That's crazy. And I don't mean that crazy in like, what are you talking about? I mean that in I could see why you give it that rating with the respect of wrestling, because there was a lot of wrestling on this show. It's a pay-per-view. And if it was not in Saudi Arabia, I think a lot of fans would feel the same way. I think that the location, which is the one pay-per-view a year that fans look at the location and it automatically brings the pay-per-view down a notch. And I think at times we're blinded by the location instead of actually looking at what is on the card, and if it's a good product, and if they've had good matches, if the storylines make sense, the outcomes make sense. So I appreciate you giving it an A+. Do I think it's an A+ personally? Not personally. I don't think it's an A+ pay-per-view, but I gave it a thumbs up. I did. Maybe like a B. I'd give it a letter grade below, but in the same universe of good pay-per-view, and you gave it an excellent pay-per-view. So cool. As far as the Becky Lynch stuff, I mean, you heard me earlier in the show. You've gotten this far. You know my opinions on it, so I'm going to try not to just repeat. But the different thing I'll say is that regardless of this is a work or not, as you said, this has now actually almost got me interested in seeing the pay-per-view that I swore that I hated, that I would not want to watch because it's a manufactured brand versus brand. Now, that said, I'm still not into the brand versus brand thing because it's completely phony. But I do care about this match in particular of Becky versus Charlotte presumably at Survivor Series, because it's champion versus champion for basically every title. That's going to be fun to watch them in the ring, because whether this is real or not real, it creates an automatic additional element of interest that wasn't there before. And to see them, if they take any liberties in the ring, maybe there's some kind of short burst of actual fists flying, who knows? But to me, that's the most interesting part. Throw all the brand nonsense and just marketing crap aside. That is what I care about now. So good observation, and it now makes me a little bit more excited for the pay-per-view. DJ, thank you so much. Let's continue, and this is Jeff from the Philippines. I thought it was a voicemail that he had because there was an attachment to the email. It is not a voicemail from Jeff. Jeff, man, we miss your voicemails, buddy. Try to call in. So in lieu of that, of course, I'm going to read the email you have. It's just a couple of points, and then we'll get to the next voicemail. But Jeff, here's what he has to say. So he says, it's been a while since the last time I sent an email. College has been very busy these past few months. So here's what I want to discuss about wrestling. Number one, there are rumors spreading that the title swap segment, here we go, on SmackDown between Becky and Charlotte didn't go as planned. And rumors say that Charlotte threw a tantrum during the segment, resulting to Becky throwing the SmackDown title at her. There are speculations that other talents that are having difficulty working with Charlotte. And the most recent scenario is when she and Nia Jax had a shoot fight. Also, during their match against Rhea at Money in the Bank, Charlotte threw a middle finger to the crowd during the "We Want Becky" chant. Yep. So that's a good observation, not only about the recent issue that has been going on between Becky and Charlotte, presumably real. We'll go with real because that's more fun to believe. I like how you brought up the other two things about Charlotte having difficulty with Nia Jax. We all remember that little exchange that went nowhere, which tells me that was not a work. It was real, right? It was the real deal, because if it was a work, they would have built off of it. But the Rhea Ripley deal, I did not see. No, I did. Now that you bring it up, I do remember her flipping the crowd off for chanting "We Want Becky" because they knew Becky was close to returning at that time. And yep, good point. And so there is something going on with Charlotte. Mentally, there's something going on, and I'm very interested. If she was ever given truth serum and brought on this podcast, I have so many questions. But number two, on Big E watching the TV with his back turned, the Young Bucks did the same thing in AEW months ago. I attached a photo to this email so you can see it. I know they're just making fun of how WWE produces their segments. Yeah, it could be. I see the photo you've sent. I will say Big E was even worse. I mean, this is bad with the picture you sent me, but Big E was worse. I mean, he stretched his eyes as far as they could go. It's preposterous. But if they were mocking WWE, like, hilarious. Love it. Thank you for sending this, Jeff. Number three, Tony Nese is now signed with AEW. I don't think it would benefit him and the company since AEW has a stacked roster. Last time I checked, AEW has 92 active wrestlers in the male roster. Yeah, look, AEW needs to be careful of just knee-jerk reacting and acquiring talent just to acquire them. They need to be maybe more selective because, number one, Tony Khan has got a lot of money, but he doesn't have unlimited money. You need to be careful with your resources, even if there are deep pockets there. And you also don't want to look like you are just the one picking up the trash from WWE, and that at least the perceived garbage that WWE just lets go. And you don't want to look like you just pick up everything they put down. And you know what, WWE doesn't. And they haven't. They haven't picked up Braun Strowman, to my knowledge. A huge pickup potentially for AEW, although I don't think he'd fit with the culture very well. So yeah, I hear what you're saying. That's a lot of active wrestlers for someone to sign in 2 years of existence. So thank you, Jeff. And hopefully you send us maybe a voicemail next week. Maybe. How about that? But I hope all is well with college. College can be a very, very trying time. I don't miss it. I got to say, I do not miss it at all. I mean, how many years of college did I have? Like 7 years of college, got my master's. I'm not bragging to say that. I'm actually not. I wish I didn't because of all the college debt and all that stuff. But I hope everything's going well with you. Okay, let's see here. And that is 100% the rest of the emails. But let's now get to the next voicemail here. And I'm not sure who this is, but we're going to find out real quick.
Hey, Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. This is the last time calling this late, I promise. I gotta make a better time after work to call. Just always busy with life and all. But this is the last time I'm calling late, I promise. the only reason why I was decided to call late this time and probably not even make this week's mailbag is because I need to get in for the Crown Jewel week mailbag, of course. So anyway, I couldn't think of any questions, so all I'm gonna say to you is, whose side do you think Paul Heyman's actually gonna be on? Do you think he's gonna like swerve us and actually join Brock, or swerve us and join Roman? What do you think's gonna happen with Paul? Because Paul Heyman feels like the main story in this match, and it's really weird. Also, my other thing I want to ask is, do you think there's going to be any face turns or heel turns? And if you think there is, who do you think's going to turn face? Who do you think's going to turn heel? I was thinking about this. So I was thinking to myself, they gotta do some kind of turn eventually, like at pay-per-view. I mean, I know they did one recently, Becky Lynch to SummerSlam, but she doesn't feel like a heel yet, like you've been saying. So yeah, I don't really count that. So can't think of anything else to say. So I guess I'll probably have a lot more to say next week on the mailbag after Crown Jewel. Once Crown Jewel ends, I'll probably have a lot more to say next week. But for this time, all I'll say is hope everyone on the podcast enjoys Crown Jewel. I think I still will, even though it's in Saudi. I'll leave it on a positive note. Everybody, it's still a pay-per-view. There's still going to be some fun matches, especially Edge and Seth Rollins for sure. So just think about it like that on a positive note. Even though it's in Saudi, the matches will probably still be fun. Even if the winners suck for some of them, it will still be fun matches. Besides Bobby Lashley and Goldberg. So yeah. So Matt, all the listeners, everybody, all the co-hosts, everyone, hope you enjoy Crown Jewel, and I guess I'll talk to you next week. So thanks and bye. Hey Matt, it's Kyle from New York again. This is going to be short and quick because I have work. And also, everyone's sleeping in my house right now, so I'm whispering. But, so, everything I wanted to ask about Crown Jewel, you pretty much answered. Also, shout out to Crisis on Dynamite review. It was pretty fun. The only question I can think of to ask you is, I thought of a question about Survivor Series. I also asked one of my friends, who also watches every week. Who do you think could be on the 5-on-5 elimination match teams? Like, who do you think can be on Raw for the men, Raw for the women, SmackDown for the men, SmackDown for the women? Who do you think? Also, do you think NXT could get involved? Because I saw a thing on Google recently about how there's reports that Walter's advertised for main roster dates. So that's interesting. So, do you think NXT could be involved, and who do you think is going to be the teams for Raw, SmackDown? And if you think NXT will be involved, who do you think will be the teams for NXT as well? Well, you don't answer that one, so I know you don't really watch it, but Raw and SmackDown, who do you think will be on the teams, and do you think NXT will be involved? I don't see NXT being involved. I think it's just maybe Walter advertised for live events. That's it. I don't know. Can't think of anything else to say to you. You can pretty much answer everything I wanted to ask in your reviews. Also, shout out to Memphis and Mark also, and Crisis, both of them. They're both did pretty good. Anyway, that's it, and talk to you next time.
Hey there, Kyle. So the first half of your voicemail, as you know, it came in the second I already published. Like, it came in as I was literally hitting the publish button last week. So everything was already finalized with my file. And, you know, you called in. It was just missed me by like 10, 15 minutes. So that's why that voicemail was included, and obviously the one from this week. So good to hear from you, Kyle. It is not a voicemail or a mailbag show without you. Let me answer some of your questions here. So whose side is Paul Heyman really on? I think he's on neither. I think he's not going to choose a side. I think he's going to unite them. Now, he may pretend to be with Roman for a while and maybe ultimately look like he's traded, been a traitor to Roman, and he joins Brock. But I think the ultimate goal, the ultimate payoff is for him to unite them as a heel monster team that runs roughshod over WWE. Now, do I think it's super likely? No. Do I think I'm probably wrong? Yes. Am I driven more by what I want than what I think is realistic? Also, yes. So that's what I'm going to go with. If you're going to force me to pick one side, I think it's ultimately Brock that he ends up with. So again, let me reiterate. My realistic choice is him being with Brock Lesnar. My fantasy choice that I want, but I still think is realistic, is him uniting them and them just destroying WWE, where no one can stop them. They are uncontrollable. That's what I want. I don't think that'll happen until maybe after their next match or this current program with them is over. But I think the ultimate goal for the wise man is to unite them. So how about that? As far as NXT being involved in Survivor Series, I don't think so. I don't see that happening. I just Googled it. I didn't see anything on it. NXT was left out of last year's Survivor Series, and it didn't look like anyone batted an eye, so I would expect the same this year. So assuming NXT is not involved this year, here's who I think could possibly be on that 5-on-5 elimination match. It also depends on champions, right? So I have to take champions out of it because they are assumingly, and we haven't got anything confirmed for the card. I would think that this coming week we should learn more on Raw and SmackDown. But who do I think is going to face one another if you're not going to include champions, which is really difficult here? I think you could have Edge leading the Raw team for Survivor Series, probably with Keith Lee, Bobby Lashley, and Seth Rollins. Is that 5? We got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I need one more. And Kevin Owens. That's who I think. So let me reiterate that. Actually, Riddle, Edge, Rollins, AJ, and Kevin Owens. That's a hell of a Raw team. On the SmackDown side, Drew on leading the team. Probably Kofi and Xavier. I'm sure they'll be put in there as well. There's 3. Then you'll have Cesaro because he can work with anybody. There's 4. And then let's see here. Maybe Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is 5. That's probably what I think. A much less star-driven card less star power on SmackDown, but they also have a smaller roster with less hours to fill. So how about that? Not bad. Not bad. I think I answered all your questions. Thanks, Kyle, and enjoy work, and I'll talk to you soon. Let's get to the next one.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore. Got done watching Crown Jewel, and overall, it was a good show. I really enjoyed team matches. Honestly, that's pretty much it. I really cared about for matches yesterday, and heading into tonight for SmackDown and also for Raw, involving the championships. I just think Becky's gonna this could be a flip flop. This is what they're going to do, where they're just gonna have probably backstage later tonight. They'll have Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville have Becky and Charlotte, or just Charlotte just swap the titles somehow, some way. They'll do something like that. It's not. I don't think it'll be a match, so I don't think that'll happen. But so I think that's what's just gonna happen. And look, and then heading into Survivor Series as well, which I know a lot of people don't like in terms of the Raw versus SmackDown stuff, but to me personally, I said this before, that I just enjoy just good wrestling and then some. That's what I'm just looking forward to. The Survivor Series, again, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I enjoy. Sometimes I don't need to have a good story to see matches. That's just personally how I feel about it. That's just it. Thanks for the call. Bye.
Our second Kyle from Baltimore, Maryland, with a unique perspective, one that I respect, one that I am not going to rebuttal. It's the one of, I don't need good stories to enjoy wrestling. Cool. Seriously, I'm not being sarcastic. That's great, because you will enjoy WWE's product a lot more than people that expect great storytelling like myself. And it's not to say I'm a better fan. In fact, I would say I'm a more demanding fan, a more unrealistic fan to expect great stories and all the storylines. It's not fair to WWE, but it's also my expectation, if I'm going to be investing money and time into their product, that I would want compelling stories. Now, with you on the other end, and other fans like you, I'm sure, that just want great matches and don't care about the story, then you are enjoying the product much more than I am at times, and leading probably having a happier experience, and you're more fulfilled watching the product than I am. So in some respects, you're kind of an easier or a quote unquote better fan than I am. So Kyle, thank you for your input, and it's much appreciated. Thank you so much. Let's get to the next caller.
Hey man, it's Justin from Maryland. Just want to get my thoughts on some topics. First, I wanted to say that I enjoyed the Fatal 4-Way on Raw. I was kind of disappointed in the result because, of course, we know that Seth Rollins is gonna lose. So, my question to you is: Do you think that it was too early to give Seth a shot? Because I mean, yeah, Seth is the top heel, maybe in WWE. Well, no, he's the second heel to Reigns, but he's not winning, the big matches. Like, I was definitely disappointed when he lost to Edge and Hell in the Cell because, like you said, Edge isn't going to be here as long as Seth is. So I was definitely kind of disappointed that Seth didn't win. And then you're going to have him just come out against and, try to challenge Big E like nothing happened. Which, that's what happens at WWE, but I don't really agree with it. I don't want to see Seth keep losing. Unless the plan is to maybe have Seth win before Survivor Series, then okay, Seth and Roman, but I don't know. I just don't really agree with it. I'm tired of seeing Seth lose the big matches. I want to see, him pick up wins. If he were to beat Edge, then I would definitely be hyped for it, but I'm not really hyped. I mean, the program is going to be fine. The match is going to be good, but Seth is not going to win. So, what else? Liv Morgan, I don't know what WWE is doing. They keep having her lose to Carmella out of all people. It's not really building Carmella, and it's kind of hurting Liv Morgan. So I don't understand that. What else? RK Bro, they definitely look good. I was surprised at the Dirty Dogs winning the number one contenders match, but it was, I guess, they're setting up Omos to AJ against the Street Profits. So, lastly, Roman Reigns. I just hope that Reigns doesn't lose to Lesnar. They're definitely making it seem like Lesnar is going to beat Reigns in their rematch, but I don't know. Hopefully not. But my time is almost up, man. So thanks, and I'll talk to you next time. Hey, man, it's Justin from Maryland again. I just wanted to say one more thing on the Seth Rollins, on what I had to say about Seth Rollins. Where do you see him, I guess, in the next 6 months? Because I don't really know. Like, they keep changing his character, and it's like he's been in 50-50. He's been in 50-50 booking in his last 2 or 3 programs with Cesaro. Cesaro beat him, and then he beat him. And then Edge beat him twice. And then I think he lost to Kevin Owens. So, I mean, Seth is great. His music, I love how he comes out and dances to his music. I love, everything, the stomp. But where do you see him after this feud? Because I don't really know. Like, I don't know why they couldn't just let KO, or, I mean, they could, gave it to Finn. I just think that maybe that they're just rushing it because they want Big E to, go against the top heel. They're trying to build Big E, but I still feel like it's hurting Seth Rollins because, he talks a good game, but then he doesn't even win the big matches, and then he still comes out like nothing happened. So that's it, man. And as I'm about to listen to this Goldberg podcast that you just posted, I feel like the next program we'll see him in. He'll probably challenge for the world title because that's really the only matches he really has outside of this Lashley program. Well, no, actually the Lashley match was for the title at first. So I feel like the next time we'll see Goldberg, and I know you'll hate it, but he'll probably be challenging Big E soon, probably by Rumble or even Roman Reigns. So, yeah, man. Sorry for the second voicemail, but I've been stuck on the Seth Rollins thing since I saw the match, and I want WWE to book him better. Like, he should be winning at least 90% of his matches because he's just that good. Like I said, he's probably the second best heel. So, all right, man. Thanks, and talk to you next week.
Hey, Justin. thanks for calling in, and your 2 voicemails are appreciated. You're a great contributor every week to the show, and thanks for diving into Seth here. And that's really seems to be the main focus of your voicemails is Seth. So to answer your question, do I think it's too early to give Seth a shot? Yeah, I do. I think it's too early because I think that they could have gotten a little bit more out of Seth doing something before jumping into the title picture, rebuilding him a little bit after the loss to Edge, which I am with you. I don't agree with that, even though I love Edge, that they could have had him do something. And it just shows that they don't, when they have a massive matchup on the show, that they have a trigger finger that they can't help themselves and they just do it. And I think it's a mistake, but that's what they do. I would love to see Seth take the belt from Big E, like every day of the week. I would love it, but I don't think they're going to do it because it's still too early in Big E's run. But he does keep losing. Seth does keep losing at least the big match. I mean, I know he got a victory over Edge in Madison Square Garden and he hit the stomp and all that, but he still loses the blow off. We need Seth, like you said, to continue to, or at least begin to win those big ones. Win the big one. And they just haven't had him do that yet. And it does hurt over time. I know that sometimes people say, wins and losses don't matter. But they do when you continually have a character lose the blow-off match. And Seth needs to somehow regain that momentum. And I don't know if that's in the cards, but I think that when you said they continue to change his character, I think they finally landed on something here, right? I think they finally landed on this character of the burn it down / kind of messiah, but an egotistical jerk that wears the most ridiculous outfits to the ring. They've landed on whatever this is, and I think it's whatever this is the best iteration that we've seen of Seth since Seth has been Seth. I like it, and it's working. So I don't see, as far as Seth in the next 6 months, I do believe he will be champion in the next 6 months. I do believe he will be WWE champion in the next 6 months. Why? Because a heel going into WrestleMania as champion is a better story with a babyface on the chase than a babyface defending the belt at WrestleMania with the heel in chase. It's always a better story. And I always say to people, watch the end of the year, especially in the new year, because as they roll into WrestleMania season, it's typically a better scenario and a more fun story with the baby faces chasing the heel, because when they reach the mountaintop at WrestleMania, it's a feel good moment rather than just the baby face retaining. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. They're still champion. It doesn't feel as rewarding as the chase and the climb and the scratching and the clawing for the baby face to get to that mountaintop and the biggest stage. Now, that's not the end all be all, and not every story should be formulated that way, but that's a general good rule of thumb. So to answer your question, long story short, I do believe Seth will be champion in the next 6 months leading into WrestleMania, of which he may lose it there. Yeah, I know you mentioned Liv Morgan. I talked about that earlier too. So, so much, Justin. Thank you so much. And we will be chatting next week, I hope. Okay, final voicemail of the night. Here we go.
Hey, Matt and the WWE Podcast Universe. This is the G-Man from Reading, Pennsylvania. So first off, I want to say Queen Zelina. I'm so happy for her, man. I hope good things come down the road for her. Maybe down the road, hopefully, a women's not right away, obviously, sometime maybe next year. Just hopefully she doesn't lose match after match again, you know. We don't want to see that again. I think Sasha Banks, the boss, the blueprint, I think she'll defeat Charlotte for the SmackDown Women's Championship pretty soon. I'm not sure what's going on with Charlotte, with all the heat that's going on her. And, I mean, a lot of women in the roster I don't think they're interested to work with her anymore, so it's not looking good for her. And Bianca Belair, I think she'll beat Becky Lynch for the Women's Championship this Monday. I can see that happening. So I think we might see Bianca and Sasha at Survivor Series. Looks like it might be doing that. I'm not a big fan of the title versus title. Well, not title, but Raw and SmackDown, champion versus champion. But it is what it is. I wouldn't mind seeing Brock Lesnar again every week, destroying stuff. That was fun, right? And Damian Priest, man, he has a whole new look this Monday and beating the crap out of T-Bar. A new team. So was he like a heel Damian Priest now? So, I don't know. Oh, all right, man. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Hey, G-Man, I didn't know you called in, or I would have put you up higher in the order of voicemails, but good to hear from you. And let's get into what you had to say, at least things that I haven't already said to avoid my repeating issues. So let's talk about Sasha and Charlotte and Bianca and that whole mess of that scenario and the Charlotte heat and all that. Again, I've mentioned that many times throughout the show, but your scenario about Charlotte dropping the belt to Sasha and then having Becky drop the belt to Bianca, I like that scenario because Bianca and Sasha, we know, can put on an excellent match. I mean, they led the pay-per-view. I think they had the best match of the entire WrestleMania pay-per-view. I really believe that. Even better than the triple threat between Roman, Daniel Bryan, and Edge. That's crazy to say, but I think they killed it. And that said, we know what kind of match they can put on. But do they really want to put the belt on Sasha for somebody that just has a really bad track record of up and leaving? Now, it's not to say she's no-showing, but for whatever, she's got something going on, some personal issue or something we're not privy to. Do you really want to put the belt on somebody that may not be there week to week? I mean, she has a really bad habit over the last year of just disappearing. So if it's health or personal, whatever it is, I don't care what it is, because the fact is she's not here regularly. And as champion, you, in today's day and age, you probably should be. And, I don't. Now, here's the other thing. If somebody put a gun in my head and said, what do you think really is going to happen? I think it's still going to be Becky versus Charlotte, because the WWE knows that this story is blown up and they could monetize this and tell the women, if they actually have an issue together, look, put your issues aside because this is blowing up. Let's make some money. And they could really play this out instead of avoiding it by putting the belt on somebody else just so they don't have to have a match together. They're two professionals. They can still work together. They get paid a ton of money to do what they do. But the story could be a lot better if it's Becky Charlotte, because people are going to be wondering, whoa, is this real? She just take a real shot? Are they taking liberties with one another? So I think, they could take that road if things are really bad, but I don't know how bad they are. And I would tell them, again, grow up, work together. Let's make money with this story. Why not? But I don't think the belts are going to change hands anytime soon. I think that at least on the Raw or the SmackDown side of things, I really believe that maybe Raw, Bianca could. I don't know. This is really difficult, and the more I think about it, well, Charlotte has been champion for a little longer than Becky has. I don't know. It's certainly a fun debate to have, and I appreciate the thoughts, G-Man. And everybody who has contributed to the show, thank you so much. I do encourage anybody who is thinking about joining the show, do so. Email us at realwwepodcast@gmail.com. You can also send us a voicemail at 518-952-0247, or you can send us a tweet at wrestling_audio or on Instagram at WWE_podcast. So lots of ways to get in touch with us. This is my final show for the week, unless we do some kind of news brief or something else happens. But this is usually my final show for the week, which I love this. I love my little job I do on the side here, but sometimes it's like, man, I need a night off. I need a night off from just being in front of the microphone. And I get that the next couple of nights. So yay me. But anyway, guys, thank you so much as always. And I will talk to you next time. Did you know that your state's DMV makes millions of dollars a year selling your information to data mining companies? Wild, I know. In today's age of information, the last thing you need is your home address and phone number readily available on the web. Think stalkers, debt collectors, and Karens. Oh my, no thank you. We have a solution for you. Welcome to Privacy Pros. Privacy Pros works by scrubbing your personal information websites by hand. They're the only American-based opt-out company that does this level of bespoke service. They own their own servers, they never outsource overseas, and they only use open source software to further protect your personally identifiable information. Furthermore, unlike those other guys, they do not resell your data once your subscription ends with them. Every visit to the DMV, the purchase of a new car, or the start of a mortgage can trigger new sales of your information to these predatory data mining companies. Privacy Pros works by pairing you with a data specialist for the duration of your subscription. They monitor over 160 sites, actively removing your information and sending you quarterly reports for an entire year. Ready to scrub the internet of your information? Let the Privacy Pros get their hands dirty so you don't have to. Visit privacypros.com/wrestling for information. Again, that's privacypros.com/wrestling for more information. Privacy Pros, the premier professional opt-out services.